Hello, everyone. Welcome to the UpRev Ninja podcast. If this is your first time listening, thanks for joining us. This show is produced each week with the single intent of discovering the tips, tricks, hacks, and lessons learned from our guests that has catapulted them into living the best version of themselves. Join your host, Tom Hudson, as he continues his search for the best methods to UpRev his life. Now, let's dive into the show.
My next guest is Samuel Pavin. He's a freelance consultant helping businesses of all sizes with their strategy and growth from business and marketing angles. Going from idea to planning to execution and development, it involves not only a reflection but hands-on delivery of marketing, social media, and business development. A lover of tech and startups, having built and led IBM's Global Entrepreneur France, IBM's corporate program for startups for 5 years before moving on to take CMO roles with startups in the UK and Australia. He keeps learning and developing on top of his consulting role by growing Absolute Translations, a language services, in Australia, being a key opinion leader for Hawaii, an ambassador for Hootsuite and Post Planner, and a member of the organizing team for TEDx Rockhampton in Australia. Welcome to the UpRev Ninja podcast, Samuel Pavin. Hey, Sam, welcome to the UpRev Ninja podcast. As I already said, I've read your bio to my audience, but I would just love to hear it from you. Like, who are you?
Sure. Thanks, Tom. Nice to be here today. So who I am, I'd say like quite a few things, but initially born in France and I've been traveling around and doing quite a fair amount of things. As you mentioned in the bio, I've had quite a few different experiences in life already. Just like did the normal path initially, studies, got a job in a banking company in France, so BNP Paribas. Did the corporate life for like about 4 years there. Kind of moved on at some point, resigned, decided that I just had to get a rest, see something else. So moved on to Scotland. Spent 2 years there, really loved life. And that was one of the turning points as well, which I think we can talk a bit about further. But I spent 2 amazing years living in Scotland, just like mixing with the community there and working in definitely another type of context, because I started working with IBM at that point. So kind of switched from banking and finance to IT, which I definitely no clue about. But I had a pretty good time, to be honest, because I was still doing business-related stuff, to be honest. My only technical skill would be to plug the computer on and off and switch the power button on. So, but I was working on their business partnerships at European level, so got into basically chat and work with about 26 different nationalities. So it was a pretty good time. Especially, I love to just meet new people as well. So that was an amazing role for me. So moving from there, there's like one day I was thinking, what's next? I just had a chat with a few people in France, and basically within 5 minutes I had a job in France, which was pretty good and a pretty good testament to having done something right, I think, somewhere. So I moved on back to France just to work with IBM as a consultant within the company on marketing and business development, and I basically worked with small businesses for a year. In this job, and moved on to take on a project at the time, a year later, which would actually become the IBM Global Entrepreneur Program. So that was basically the pilot program, which started at the end of 2009 to actually start working with startups. So I basically had to build it from scratch in France, because it was basically 2009, 2010 at that time. And to be honest, I think when you were talking about startups with IBM at that time, it was basically a non-existent company. It's like any company that was less than 10 people and less than $1 million turnover didn't exist.
Wow, I can imagine.
So that was definitely I think it was one of the best experiences, like work-wise at least, I've ever had, because I was really definitely a wild card from the IBM side, which I've never seen in the past. So I was basically given the right to do anything, more or less. And I had to bring together a whole ecosystem and just basically build something literally from scratch. and do it the way I wanted. So that was definitely an amazing experience, and that's I think what we later came on to call as basically intrapreneurship. So kind of getting a glimpse of entrepreneurship, but from the corporate side at the time. So I did that for 5 years in Paris and working with Western Europe overall. Then, sorry, came just like a twist and turn, as like my girlfriend had decided that she wanted to go live in Australia because she was kind of bored of the cold in Scotland, and she's Scottish, and she was still living in Glasgow at that time. So basically, we moved to Australia, and thank God I had this job with IBM actually, because I just could basically pack my bags and bring my computer with me, and internet is quite good still.
Right.
It allowed me to work remotely, so I basically just followed. To be honest, I've been a good husband there. And I've been in Australia now for 3 years. Just moved on from the role after a while, and actually started kind of, I would say, completing my history and my training in the startup world by actually switching to the other side and working with a few startups. And that was I think also one of the very, very good experiences, just like from a pure learning point of view, because I'd been working with startups for years. Literally met with about 600 or 700 during my time at IBM, like informal meetings. But there's one thing you can never really relate to until they've been inside. Like I've been advising startups and seeing them make mistakes, and I was like, why the fuck would you keep on making that mistake?
Right.
And then you get onto the other side, and it's like I've experienced failure in a startup, and then I really understood. It's like you're basically seeing the wall in front of you, and you're accelerating towards it, and that's where I was always telling startups, why do you not turn or change or anything? And then when you're in there, you're like, okay, now I follow. I'm going to crash. I still don't know how we can avoid that, but let's keep going. So that was a pretty good experience. And in the meantime, I've been doing freelance consulting as well on brand strategy. So working with startups and corporates as well in Europe and in Asia. So basically, when you say brand strategy, it's basically business planning, marketing planning, throw in a bit of social media and a bit of logic as well, and experience, I would say. And that gives me, quite a fair bit of experience now. But that's where I stand today, working with different companies. I've also started working with a translation company out of Brisbane here. Focusing on the growth of the company. But definitely got quite a broad, varied experience, and definitely quite a few things we can talk about later then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the fact that, born in France, going off to Scotland, moving to Australia, and then, you mentioned 26 different nationalities, and I'm sure you've probably worked with more than that. I think that's one thing here in America, I don't necessarily get. Like, I did live in Italy for a bit. So Italy, I've been to Switzerland and France, but it's one thing to live it and breathe it every day. Whereas I used to do M&A for a few years. Yeah. So, mine was kind of, I would fly in, take care of it, and fly out. So
yes.
My nationalities might be Mexico and Canada. California, Texas, like it's a little different here, so there's definitely cultural differences, but I can't fathom, the differences that you had to work with and learn and, integrate into your work style and the teams that you were a part of. I'm sure that was challenging at times.
Yeah, it's always a bit of work, just like because of cultures, habits, and all these things. I think it's bottom line is I've been starting traveling like from the day I turned 18 and I was able to travel on my own. I basically packed a bag, jumped on a train. I was actually the Eurostar at the time, straight to London, and that was I think that was Euro 2000 at that time actually. But I've always been exploring a lot, so I definitely love like meeting new people and different cultures. And as you're mentioning, it can be a bit challenging, but as long as you have an open mind and you basically understand and you know that people don't have the same background and they have different habits, different kind of ideas and ways to do things, then I think it's always the same. I mean, you kind of let it go for a while and see how it works. And if it really doesn't work, then you can focus on fixing things. But usually it's just, as you were mentioning, we're not used to it. So, I mean, for some people, it can come as a shock initially. It's like, why would you do this? Or why would you say that? So, like, even, to be honest, like just starting working with the US, people were a bit more straight to the point than European people. So I remember like some of the first conference calls and stuff, like you could see French people like literally either terrified or pissed off because it was like, why are you telling me like straight to my face that I suck? It was literally the kind of...
Oh, yeah.
And we would usually like wrap it up and make it sound quite nice initially, and then deliver it to you. But I think it's pretty good, and I learned a lot as well from different, like the way people do things differently as well. So it's been pretty good experience.
Yeah, no, that it is fantastic, and it's funny working with just different cultures, and even here, I mean, it can vary from state to state. So. Well, Sam, so you've gone through quite the transition during your career. Corporate now you're on the other side, more on the entrepreneurship side. And you mentioned one of the key reasons that you moved to Australia was your girlfriend. So I guess what about other pivotal moments in your life that really kind of made you take a step back and like re-examine, like, ooh, is this the direction I want to go in? Or, this is definitely a passion that you have, or something like that. Those key pivotal moments in life like that. Do you have a story like that for us?
Yeah, well, I would have quite a few actually, but one of the big stories, and this might not be like all fireworks and everything, but
no, it's fine.
I think one of the big time in my life, as I was mentioning, was like after BNP Paribas, or actually with BNP Paribas, because basically, well, when I started, I would say life, basically the point was you study, go to uni, get a job, fairly good job, and basically your life is sorted. The usual path, and your parents want you to do this, and that's all these things.
It's a proverbial checklist to growing up. Yeah, yes, quite aware of it.
So I basically started doing this. I was having a good life, to be honest, like doing a lot of things, like even as a student and everything, but I definitely followed the path. And when I finished uni, or in my last year of uni, I just wanted to kind of add a training to do, mandatory training. And I decided that this training would basically be the springboard to getting a job. So I basically did this, found a job, which was a paid internship, then got hired by the company afterwards. And that was BNP Paribas. And I spent 4 years with them doing quite a few different things, including launching a new department dedicated to small businesses. So pretty much like exciting stuff at that time. But after a few years there, and especially in the last year, I was beginning to get like slightly bored, as you would, and so kind of questioning kind of the business processes and the way people would do business. I was linked to working in the sales department, and as you know, not everybody is kind of straight, I would say, when they do sales. And there was this one day when my manager told me, just lie straight to the face of the customer to make the deal. It's going to crash and burn afterwards, but just sign it, make the deal. And that was like literally the pivotal moment, I think, because there was like literally an order to lie to the guy. And that's, bottom line is I'd never done sales this way. And I would say my own way to do it is like being honest and build relationship with people.
Absolutely.
When you bust your ass, I would say just building a relationship and just giving your word to people. I think that was like literally the end. It was, I think it was a bad day and a bad week. And then the manager comes and just like, just lie to his face, sign the contract. The guy's going to be like in deep shit afterwards, but none of your business, I would say. And that was about it. It's like literally that drove me to resign. And that's where like I took a step back and I was like, okay, what do I do next? I'm just going to take a year off and just like kind of travel a bit, define what I really want to do. And that's where I basically, within a week, resigned and decided I would go back to the UK. And that's what drove me to Scotland ultimately. But I think that was definitely like a defining moment, because it was kind of get out of the rat race, stop just kind of working and kind of coping with bullshit just for the sake of just having a job and a life, and kind of following the path that's been marked, and just kind of get on with your life the way you want to get on with your life, and just stick to your own principles. So I think that was definitely, I mean, especially when you're just putting the thing like in context and in the picture of like, I had the perfect job. I was making a fair bit of money. I've always earned a lot more money than my parents, for instance. So just resigning and getting out in the unknown, because I didn't have any job lined up or anything. And that was literally like 12 or more years ago now. Area was like something very new and something a bit scary as well, and even more scary actually for my parents and family. But that's definitely what kind of defined and designed my path afterwards. So just kind of looking back on it, I think it was the best thing I ever did. And that also holds this truth, because then, I just wanted to go back to the UK because I lived in London for a while. When I mentioned jumped on a train, I actually ended up staying in London for like 3 months at a time. So I wanted to really, really go back to the UK because I love the people, I love the place, like the way people were so social. The life was kind of feeling easier there as well. And a friend of mine was actually living in Scotland at the time and told me, yeah, just come up there. It's amazing. So I just, that's why I really ended up in Scotland at that time. And I definitely discovered, we were talking about culture, but a very, very different culture. Like amazing people, super social, and quite laid back as well. And I think that's what was missing also at that time, is I was still kind of able to stress out a bit, like I would say like everybody would do. But I was still not able to kind of take a step back and relax and kind of not feel stress if I'm like 5 minutes late for an appointment or whatever. I still hate it, but I really learned to kind of, relax, I would say. And these 2 years like definitely changed my outlook and the way I approach life, and maybe make kind of less drama and just put more, I would say, real life in life as well. Because you can be forced about everything in life. Like, okay, you're waiting for a train and the train is late, right, and he's gonna go on a rampage and whatever, and that's like stupid things, but you see them every day nowadays. And I think this time in Scotland and the way people behaved has like definitely helped me a lot. I was like more or less like kind of go to therapy as well, and just learn to relax, learn to take it easy. And I'm in Australia and people are meant to be laid back and everything, but to be honest, I think Scotland wins the title. Like people really had this culture. I've never seen like that much road rage or
oh wow,
trains late for an hour and people would be standing on the quay, just talking to each other, getting a coffee, whatever.
Right,
it's like,
yeah.
I really, literally, really changed my life.
Oh no, it's fantastic. I mean, just the fact that you going back to what your manager had told you, and you felt that you were sacrificing your principles and values, and within a week you took charge of that, and then you go off to Scotland and you have this just super transformational experience, and it's because you listened to yourself, and you didn't want to put up with basically being a liar and not forming relationships. I mean, that right there is how many people do you know do sacrifice their value, or how many people know what their value system is? That's the first step. And not only did you know that, but you knew it was wrong and you did something about it. So, I applaud you for that. And I'm so happy and thrilled to hear that Scotland was awesome for you.
Yeah, I can recommend Scotland actually to people. It's a pretty good place to be. No,
Well,
definitely that was quite a good place. Yeah.
so what do you think, like, going through all of this, I'm not hearing anything so far, but has there ever been something in your life that's always kind of held you back, like, shame or embarrassment, it was a fear, something that that's held you back and that you've always had to kind of push through, or anything like that?
Yeah, I think I mean, like everybody else, like as you're saying, I think fear, especially fear of failure, is still quite ingrained in a lot of people, and especially in our culture in Europe. I mean, that's also something I saw a lot when I really came full time in the startup community. I mean, there was a time, and it's really improved a lot, but when you couldn't fail at all, especially like in the startup world in France, it was like regarded so badly. And that was one of the main difference. For instance, if you're comparing the startups in France and in the US.
Right.
But I think this kind of fear of failing or just taking that risky step forward definitely held me back quite a fair amount of times. I still had quite a quite a few experiences that people were amazed of, but to be honest, like even as a student, I had opportunities, for instance, like during the internet bubble, to invest money in technical like tech companies in shares at that time. I never did it, and I would have made a huge amount of money. For instance, I just didn't do it because there was a risk that it would fail, and I just didn't want to take the risk. For instance, just moving on from there, there's always like even when I was with IBM, I had a few opportunities to also start my own business at that time, and I just wasn't sure because I was just like I'm quite analytic in a way, and I like to. I'm pretty good at risk management actually, especially within a business context. And when I was considering the risk at the time, I was like, yeah, I'm going to just waste money and time, and I'd rather not do it. So it's always been a bit of a hindrance as well. It's still like, even moving on, you still stick to some old kind of principles. It's like, why would you put everything at stake, and when you know that it has like nine chances, or 9 out of 10 chances of failing, basically.
Do you think that culture in Europe with startups is still like that, or I know it's improved, but do you
Yeah.
When compared to the US?
Yeah, I think it's improved a lot nowadays, to be honest, because even if you've started up and failed, now it's just actually it's become, I think, the, the exact contrary, but it's more and more like a badge of honor nowadays. Yeah. And, there are these fail cons, like conferences on failure and these kind of things. So I think it's gotten a lot better, and that wouldn't be so much of an issue nowadays in Europe. I would say in Western Europe, because if you're moving a bit further to like Eastern Europe, failure is still not seen really in the best light. Japan is starting to get out of it as well, but still failing is still not really a good thing, even in the startup world there. So, and I think in Australia, people really don't really have that kind of fear at all. But I think it's still holding up some people just from actually starting up as well. It's like there's a culture here which is far less entrepreneurial. So it feels a bit like France, like 5 or 10 years ago, to be honest, and that would be the US maybe 20 years ago then. Okay. People tend to not want to start up as well, just because I would say it's safer when they are in a normal, I would say, job, just not to take the step and take the risk to go building a business, which might actually fail as well.
Right. Well, so you've had a number of mentors, and along the way on this path, have you? Has there been a piece of guiding light, piece of advice that you've kind of stuck with and that you kind of cherish, that you were glad you were given that at that point?
Yeah, I think there's been quite a fair amount of people that I've met and that have been amazing. But I had this funny experience. I think one of the first first pieces of guidance, I think. And there wasn't really guidance at that time, or not as such. But when I moved to London, just with my backpack and not much to do, I actually found a job as a waiter in one of Gordon Ramsay's restaurants at that time.
Oh, my.
And yeah. So I ended up working in this restaurant, and that was like, they had a Michelin star. There was the Petrus in London. So beyond, I would say, just guidance, it really taught me what quality truly is about, and what like hard work and dedication truly is about. Especially when you end up like cleaning the marbles with a toothbrush and you're like on all fours on the floor.
Wow.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. I literally loved that, and I learned to use the F word a lot as well, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy wasn't around all the time because I was not the main restaurant in London, but I met him a few times, and I think it taught me maybe not something that resonated initially, but just like to actually don't really care so much, because when you're in this context and you're basically surrounding by kind of fancy people, and this whole kind of job is about not making a mistake and kind of holding yourself tight and everything. It was quite funny because being around him, like in a more laid-back context, and we had the wedding of the chef of the restaurant was Marcus Weinberg. So there was like a lot of guests, a lot of people. That was in a park not far from London Green, and that's I think the most time I spent around Gordon. But it was like so relaxed and just like, okay, you're working here and you're working for me and Marcus and whoever else, but just enjoy yourself as well and take it easy. Have a bite in the food and this. Like kind of live life in a way, and I think that was the really, really good piece of advice is like, regardless of the context, just be yourself, and just kind of don't beat yourself up as well, just to try and fit in the role you're given. Just be yourself, and you'd be even better anyway. And that doesn't mean there's not going to be quality, or you're not going to be doing your job. You're just going to be doing it better, and that's definitely something that I think I brought on board. Kind of put it to sleep for a wee while within BNP, although I was still being myself. But then, yeah, when I moved on, I really took it back on, and I was like, yeah, now maybe it's the time to just like be myself and put it in my life as well. So I think it was one of the defining moments, on top of really learning what hard work truly means, to be honest, because that was like 20 hours a day, more or less, overall with the journey and everything. And I loved it, to be honest. Because it was like real work.
I think when you have you definitely knew what the mission was, right? And you've lived it and breathed it every single day. And I think that's kind of what distracts or detracts people from a lot of their work today, especially in the corporate world, not understanding what the mission is and being able to link the work that they do every day to the mission. And when it's as clear as what you had with Gordon's restaurant there, I think that's definitely that's probably what gave you that enjoyment and making it through those 20-hour days.
Yeah, no, definitely. That was pretty good. But yeah, no, that was an amazing experience in itself, and just like also being in a completely different place, no friends around as well. So basically I had to go on all family, actually.
Yeah. And that can be a vacation in itself sometimes. So
yeah, no, it definitely was. It was a good time. But yeah, I think that was one of the very defining moments there, just like I would say, building the foundations. And then I met quite a few people, but I had my very first boss at BNP Paribas was an amazing guy who actually went on to become one of the national directors, and then took on direction in a foreign country as well. So definitely, this guy had a meteoric rise, but just because he was so good. And that's one of the guys as well who actually taught me how to do business the right way and sales the right way. Because I remember, like in my first weeks, I literally screwed up one of the of the contracts. So made a mistake, not a big mistake, because I think it was like kind of a mistake which cost the company a few $100, to be honest. But literally, I went straight to him and like, okay, I've made a mistake. It's gonna be like a few hundred euros at the time. And I was like, if you want, I'm gonna pay you back for that. And he was cracking himself laughing, and he was like, okay, keep that in mind. But it's like, nah, never apologize for making a mistake. Like if it's a genuine mistake, but just keep being honest. And that's definitely what I've kept as well. Just honesty and just being nice. I think it's just that was part of my personality, I would say. And I think that's this guy who just told me, yeah, keep it going, even in this world and the sales world. It's not going to be making you a disservice at all. So just follow this path, which is the right one, which I've been doing since then. And I've been called quite a few times, like called out in various companies for being too honest and too nice and too whatever. Wow. And it's like, yeah, well, like, kind of screw that. I'll keep going anyway.
There's
no point.
I find that crazy. I mean, here's the thing. Like, if you fail, ultimately I don't care, as long as it's like the whole, what Einstein, don't keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result, right? The definition of insanity. Like when someone comes to me and they like, hey, I messed up, I failed, I'm like, that's, okay, what did you learn from that? Let's go down that, because you can learn from it. And learning from any mistake, whether it's in a relationship or financial work, whatever, that's how you get better. So Sam, what about you've covered a lot in regards to some of the stuff I was going to talk to you about today, but and it's fantastic. I just loved the story that you're taking us on here. One thing I'm wondering about is, we've never fully arrived, right? We're always going to become a better version of ourselves day after day, or at least that's the hope. What are you currently working on yourself, trying to improve in your life to get you to the next level?
Yeah, quite a few things.
Aren't we all?
I need to get back to the gym for a start. I still need to keep exercising, but yeah. Now, all jokes aside, I'm kind of I would say rebuilding, not the foundations, but as I was mentioning, I guess it's been quite a journey as well. Just getting into Australia and moving on from the IBM job, just getting to entrepreneurship and startups. And I've basically worked for a couple of startups since moving on. I've been working with a few different clients. Just recently, took this job with the translation company in Brisbane. So it's kind of it's not been the best time of of life so far, because it's been a bit hectic and messy. I'm still, the point is, at the moment, I'm just trying to find some bearings as well, because we've been moving around a bit in Australia, so it wasn't quite easy to settle down as well and just do the one thing or the one few things I'd like to do. So it's a bit of kind of a transition time at the moment, to be honest. It's not the best time. It's not the worst time either.
Right.
But yeah, there's I had a few projects which also kind of didn't go through. One of the startups I worked for actually had to close down. So yeah, we got the failure as well. Quite a big story with the investors at that time. But right now, I think I'm just getting back on track. I'm just trying to get more involved in the startup ecosystem here as well. Because this is something I had explored when I arrived in Australia, and the startup ecosystem in Australia is still quite nascent. They're still I think laying down the foundations for growth, and there's I would say there's an amazing potential here and an amazing amount of things to do. So that's kind of the direction I want to go as well, and to be going and in the coming years, as well as building the family as well on the side here, because that should be the the place where we settle for a while at least.
So how are you keeping yourself grounded with all of this going on? No, it's, some of us can juggle 27 chainsaws at the same time, and some of us can't juggle at all. But I mean, you've got a lot going on, and you've been in Australia, what, 2 years, 3 years now?
3 years now, yeah.
So, I mean, you've moved around a lot. It's a new country, wanting to start a family. You're doing, you've had a failure at one startup. You've got another one going. You've got this translation company going on. I'm not going to ask you what keeps you up at night. I think I know the answer. What lets you sleep at night? Like, do you journal? Do you meditate? You're not going to the gym, it sounds like, so it's not like you're working out, getting that stress out. So how do you...
Yeah.
This goes back to your Scottish roots, doesn't it?
Yeah, more or less. I was going to say drugs, but no, not even. I'm a bit frustrated because I can't do as much sport as I used to, and it's also because it's being a bit hectic, to be honest. But as definitely, I think like even my girlfriend was like, keeps on being surprised how kind of easygoing it can be when the world is burning outside.
Yeah,
but. I think it's this thing also, like it also comes from I would say the family roots, and that's something that I didn't really pay that much attention when I was younger, but that kind of grew inside as well. But my family comes like from kind of rural areas. It's very kind of basic life that they had. Like one of my uncles was a farmer, and so I spent my childhood basically chasing cows in the fields,
right,
and that kind of things. And we had the forest around and all these things. But one thing that they had is like they never really, like most of my family is not really tech geeks or anything. They're really like kind of having, I would say, normal jobs, but like real life jobs, like working in the fields, like working in factories. It's like nothing fancy at all. But that's why when I was younger, or even when I started working, like even my grand was like taking the piss at me. It was like, I don't even have a clue what you're doing. I think you're playing all day on the computers and everything.
Yeah.
And that's always been their thing. And it's like very grounded people, very kind of easy in a way. So they would stress out for things, but things that really matter, not kind of
right.
trivial things. And I think that's been one of my grand's things as well. And she's like, and it's quite funny to say, but she's always like, at the end of the day, like, she would eat something out of the floor or whatever. And that's what we did as kids as well.
Yeah.
But just like saying, well, you got to die of something anyway. And I think that's the bottom line, is like, at the end of the day, that's the only thing which is certain in life, as you're going to die at some point. So
right.
Whatever you do in the meantime, is like, make it count somehow, or just like, don't keep bothering about whatever you can't touch, or like improving what you can't improve at the moment, or just don't go stressing for whatever. I mean, it's just gonna just keep going. I mean, it's gonna end at some point. So just make the most of what you have, because that's, I mean, whatever you have. And I know that life can be like really, really shite and really bad, but that's the point as well. It's still life, and it's I would say it's a miracle in itself that you're alive and that you can have a kind of a time span on Earth to do whatever and to explore. And at the end of the day, we're still having like fairly easy lives nowadays.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we can tell as well, like, we're in the first world in a way. So that's also why, if you take a step back, I'm not gonna go like crazy about the internet just crashing down, or the train being an hour late, or the plane being cancelled while I'm flying. Is like, and that's also one thing, like, from the travels I've done, as I've also been to like kind of shitty places where people like live like you would live, or you would have lived 50 or more years ago. And like, even as a child, when I was at my grand's, they had a well in the village, and you could go and get some water from the well, but she also had taps.
Right,
Still, when you experience that, and you just wheelbarrow like flour to the attic or whatever, and like do it kind of the old ways, you kind of take a step back and just think that whatever, I mean, even if your life sucks, you can still go out now and or just get in the house, turn the taps on, you get water, you get electricity, for most people, you get a house anyway, even if you're renting it and struggling to pay for it. And but bottom line is like we still have like an easy life compared to millions, if not more, of people anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny. I'm hearing so many parallels between what you're sharing with, my own personal life. I grew up in a German community in northern Texas and grew up on a ranch, had horses. We had a small family farm. My great grandmother did not have running water in her house. Fast forward to today, I'm only 40. So, I mean, it's not like I'm not 80 or anything, but fast forward today, I live in a town in New England, just north of Boston, 20,000 people or whatever. But we're actually, my family right now, we're hosting a French exchange student from France, actually.
All right.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Her family comes from a village of about 40 people that live in this village, and it's in the French Alps. And I'm like, 40 people. There were more people on your plane than your entire village. I can't imagine what that. I mean, yeah, she's traveled. She's been to Paris and stuff like that. But living not every day in, day out for months or whatever. Every single person, and I think it does kind of take us back to our roots about. The TV's not working. Okay, well, I can read or I can do something else. Whereas I think we're so strung out on technology and always with a huge sense of entitlement. So well,
that's that's definitely the thing. Is that's what my parents and grandparents also said as well. It's like whatever you're doing and. Whatever I'm trying to do as well. It's like at the end of the day, if you have a bit of I would say values, and if you're working hard, there's going to be an opportunity somewhere to do something, whatever it is. And that's what I've always said, like to friends or family, is like, regardless of the situation I'm in or whatever, I don't mind even take a job to mop the floor if needed, as long as it keeps me alive or whatever, and keeps me going and gives me the ability to keep going and do maybe what I want to do later. That's, bottom line, it doesn't have to be prestigious, or it doesn't have to be fancy, and it doesn't really matter, and that's why I'm not going crazy over every failure or every bit of issue I'm facing. It's like, I don't need to be standing out in a shiny armor in the spotlight to be happy and to do my thing. As long as things keep going, and I'm happy to be in the background, in the shadows, and just do my thing, fail at one, succeed at the other, and keep going this way.
Wow. So you quite incredible, man. I really appreciate you sharing this. It's no, I feel like a lot of commonalities here, and it's pretty enlightening too, I feel. So I just kind of wrapping up here, Sam.
No worries.
Regards to parting guidance. I mean, I could probably list out 20 different things you've already shared that I would probably pick out. But what would you parting guidance, if there was we just met in the airport and you were going to give me, hey, here's one piece of advice I would love for you to carry on, with you throughout life, what would that be? There could be plenty, but I read something that a guy shared recently online, actually, and I completely disagreed. So but I could actually turn it the other way around, because the guy was saying he'd rather be wrong and rich rather than be right and poor. And I felt that's so much bullshit, to be honest. Yeah.
And that would be I would say that would be my advice, because I'd rather be right and poor if you have to be. Although if you're right, you might actually end up rich as well, or richer than the rich guy. But I would say strive to be right and just do the right thing. That's the way I would actually read this thing. Because it still sends you places and gets you places, and you're actually being also true to yourself, which I think is the most important thing. But like the life I have and even the struggles, I've actually been able to choose them as not something that just came on me. So I think it's better to be right, because I could have been rich and right, actually.
Right.
But, I'd rather just do my thing and just be less rich than I could be and just enjoy my life and just do what I want to do and not be bound by whatever, be it like society, be it first world issues or
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
The world would throw at us. That doesn't really matter. Yeah.
So Sam, you gave me some ways to connect with you. I'll make sure I put those out in the show notes. Just I guess one last thing here. Is there something that you're currently working on, a project or anything like that you'd like to share with us or promote?
That's not a project as such, because like beyond my own, I would say my own work, and I mean to say the latest project is just growing Absolute Translations, which is the translation company I'm working with in Brisbane. But now the other projects are still kind of in the background so far. Most of them, there might be a few developments in the coming weeks or months, but yeah, everything I'm doing more or less is out in the open already, and so beyond maybe a few speaking gigs and things to come. But I'll be happy to just send a note or make it public on the web as well.
Okay, yeah, well, we'll keep an eye out for that. So, I really appreciate you joining us today. You touched on I think honestly a lot of good stuff. I mean, just being yourself and live life, and if you be yourself, you'll be better. You talked about how you stuck with your principles and values, and I think that's so key and paramount. And just how I can feel it and I can hear it in your voice, just like you're very happy-go-lucky, and I really appreciate that, because I'm one of those people as well. So it's like I hear myself coming through you at times. So it's rather enjoyable speaking with you today, Sam. So
yeah, thanks. That definitely was a pleasure as well. And as you're saying, I can I can hear it as well in you. Like I think it wasn't too bad, too bad a chat. So yeah, I really enjoyed that, and it's pretty good to be able to share and discuss that. Actually, it was definitely interesting, and I think I would love to be. I'd love to have the conversation keep going. To be honest, gonna have to fly to Boston and have a coffee sometime.
No, absolutely. Next time I get to Oz, I'll definitely look you up. I mean, I'd love to meet you.
Yeah, definitely. It would be a pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah. So this episode, Sam, really discusses how he started out the proverbial checklist of, getting out of school, going to university, getting the career, and climbing the corporate ladder. But then it really transitions. It's all about travel, and travel. And this really comes to no surprise to me. I mean, I've traveled a lot, but I didn't really start until, in my 30s. And, I'm going to say that's my key takeaway from this. Travel as much as you can, even if it's just, to the neighboring city. Get out and explore, be a tourist. It's okay. But that's how you get to learn not only about yourself, but just about the culture and people around you, and really get out there and taste the culture. Don't just, go with your buddy and talk to your buddy and put some earbuds in and just avoid everything. Go out there and experience the culture and experience everything there is, and you'll come back so far richer for it. So what were your key takeaways from this episode?
Thanks for listening to the UpRev Ninja podcast with your host, Tom Hudson. Navigate to our website at uprev.ninja today, where you will find additional resources to help you discover the best version of you. While you're there, join our newsletter and join the discussion on your favorite social media platforms. We've got some awesome guests lined up to share with us how they are becoming the best versions of themselves. Again, thank you for listening. Now it's time to go out and uprev your life.